Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. We got a big show here today, breaking down two finals in Tel Aviv, Djokovic over Cilic, and in Seoul, Nishioka over Shapovalov. Big titles for Nishioka and Novak. And shout out to Marc-Andrea Huesler, the lefty Swiss, who took out Holger Rune in the final in Sofia. Not going to break it down, can't cover everything, but shout out. I will also answer your comments at the end of the show. Didn't do a mailbag last week, kind of wanted to, so wanted to make it up to you guys. So instead of doing a little interview, which I'm going to try to start doing more often on Monday Match Analysis after my initial breakdown, wanted to get to some comments. Although, I don't have time to get to that many, unfortunately. So I will try to get back on that mailbag rhythm this week. All right. I do want to start by just giving a shout out to the events. That's right. A shout out to the events, because a lot of the tournaments last week, and honestly, a lot of the tournaments that we will be seeing for the remainder of the year, are kind of temporary replacement licenses because of cancellations of Russian events and Chinese events. And the common thread here, the common theme is these events rock. These events are awesome. And I just feel like this keeps happening. Seoul was incredible. It was rocking. For a 250, the environment, 10 out of 10. Tel Aviv, the same. I'd like to also lump in Tallinn into that equation on the women's side. And we've seen it with some other events, certainly. San Diego's been good. Guadalajara was really good, the WTA finals last year. We've seen it, but I just think it bears repeating that you come to Chennai, by the way, last week or 2 weeks ago in India was really good. So shout out Chennai as well, and the arbitrages. You bring tennis to these event-deprived nations, and it tends to be really, really good. It's almost like some of these communities get a little jaded. Then again, I completely understand the financials. You go to bigger markets, you get more money. I get all that. The Russian market, the Chinese market, I understand why the tours are there, and the US and the UK, it all makes sense. I'm just saying it's been nice. It's been really nice to see some of these markets that don't traditionally have tournaments get these tournaments, and generally speaking, they've been awesome. All right. To Tel Aviv. Djokovic, I want to start off by saying I'm really glad he played this week. I think it's a great decision. I think it's going to help him in the long run. I mean, his reasoning is simple. He says I got to make the year-end championships. I got to be top 20. But let's be honest. He doesn't have to play Tel Aviv to finish in the top 20 in the race. You would think that he could easily not play another 250 for the rest of the year and be very comfortably in the top 20, because it's not like he's outside of the top 20 and he's trying to chase his way in there. He's on the inside of it. He's 15th. And you figure he's going to do well at your Parises of the world. So I don't really think that's the only reason. I think Novak understands that you got to put the work in. He's not going to take anything for granted here. And if he wants to be 100% when it's go time, when he wants to be, whether it be, building up for Australia next year or building up for the year-end championships in Turin, which I don't think he hasn't won an ATP final since 2015, if my memory serves. And he's got to defend that title in Paris, or he wants to. If he wants to be ready for those events, he's got to put in some work here, because it's been about a year since Djokovic has been able to really, I think, sustain a good rhythm and kind of get in the habit of dominance. He had a decent stretch over the course of the clay court season this year, but he was so far behind when he hit Monte Carlo, still building up in Madrid. he got Rome, he got Roland Garros, and then it was time to take another break. So it's time for him to kind of build up some momentum here. And as great as he looked, and he looked really good this week, I think it was also clear there's plenty for Novak to work on, heading into next week, which is Astana, which is a really great field. I think what Tel Aviv kind of showed is that, although he's in a great spot, it's gonna help him because there's two things. First of all, second serve was not close to where he needs it to be. That was the biggest issue with his game technically. And then in terms of the match toughness, which most players will tell you is the biggest reason why you need to get your matches in, his arm got very tight up a set and a break against Cilic. Very tight. His level definitely dipped. He was able to hang on and ride his lead to, across the finish line. But he did get tight. And I didn't watch the Safulin semifinal, but I hear the same thing happened. I hear. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I hear. Match analysis. So you look at the Djokovic-Cilic head-to-head, there's a couple things you know. You know that Novak is the more mobile and the more consistent player in a baseline rally. And as a result, you figure he's going to dominate second serve points. You figure he's going to dominate rallies over 5 shots. He kind of did. He kind of did both of those things, or I don't know, dominate's too strong a word. He's going to have an advantage in those areas, and he did. Rallies over 5 shots, Djokovic won, or 5 or more, I should say. Djokovic winning 19, and Cilic winning 13. Second serve points won, Djokovic winning 48%, Cilic winning 41%. And those things go hand in hand, right? When you play second serve points, you get into a rally. When you play first serve points, oftentimes you do not get into a rally. Oftentimes you are looking at a bang-bang point on a fast indoor hard court. That initial aggression of the serve +1 is going to allow for some point shortening. And that is what I found most interesting about this match. The fact that if you're going to pick out a generous reading of this match for Cilic, you're going to say this. You're going to say Cilic needs to make first serves. He's got a bigger first serve than Novak. He's got more point finishing power off the ground, and he does it off of both wings. And he's got to, have a great serving day and win a lot of points on the +1 and just kind of control play, dictate, from offensive positions on serve. And if he can do that, then on Novak's serve, he can get into the neutral positions a little bit more often, and eventually maybe he can come through and land some aggression at some point in rally, right? So, but the question really comes, with the first part of that equation, which is, does Cilic actually have an advantage in the first serve points? Does he have an advantage in the 0 through 4 shot rallies on first serve? Is his serve +1 better than Novak's? And I think that's debatable. Cilic has a bigger serve. That's not debatable. 5 miles per hour on average faster in this match. Aces were 13-7 Cilic. Over the year, Cilic is winning a higher percentage of first serve points. Over the year, Cilic has a higher ace rate than Novak by a lot. So yeah, Cilic's first serve is better. It's bigger, right? +1 ball, I think Cilic, he hits a little harder, but I actually think Novak's is better. It's way more reliable. It's big enough. Djokovic's +1 forehand is big enough to easily penetrate and get the ball past almost any opponent especially on this kind of court. It can get a little bit shaky on the slowest surfaces. But, if there's if there's any court speed helping Novak out, the precision is going to be enough with his weight of shot. It's going to be enough. And the reliability is so much better than Cilic that I actually think Djokovic is better on the +1. But Cilic is better on the first serve. So who has the better serve +1 in isolation? It's debatable. Who survives the serve +1 better? That's what's not debatable. Novak has a much better return. And he can use his legs to neutralize the +1 ball a lot better. So that's a key element here. Let me take you through the games that Novak broke here. 2 breaks of serve were the difference in this match. And notice 2 things. Djokovic neutralization off the return and Cilic reliability in the serve +1. So second game of the match, Cilic hits a good wide serve, has a forehand to attack, and goes down the line approach on the forehand. Bad location. Not deep enough, too central, and Djokovic makes the backhand pass cross court for a winner. Second point Novak won was a Cilic double fault. Third point Djokovic won was a serve, which was a good serve, and it was a good second serve, actually, that Djokovic mishit the return. And Cilic had a forehand to attack, but overcooked it long on the forehand down the line that he was building. Then on the last point, on the break point, Djokovic hit a low forehand block return off of a first serve that was so low and kind of biting that Cilic actually couldn't attack the +1. He had to trade it cross court, and they got into a neutral rally, and Novak won. I think off of a Cilic error. Second game of, or first game of the second set was when Novak got the break in the second frame. Cilic started the game by making 2 unforced errors on the third shot. Third shot is another word for +1 ball, just so everybody knows. Then Djokovic makes a terrific backhand return down the line that Cilic had to trade. He was on the run. He couldn't attack it. He had to trade. That was one of the best returns that Djokovic hit in the match because it was off of a first serve, and Novak just timed it sweetly down the line. And they get into a rally, and in rally, Cilic makes a forehand unforced error. Lastly, break point. Djokovic first serve return literally hits the baseline. It's halfway out, halfway on the baseline, and Cilic has to hit a half volley on his +1, and it goes wide. The serve was 211 Ks, about 130 miles per hour. Djokovic plastered it off the baseline right at Cilic's feet. So there you go, right? You look at what's happening in those points. You have some spectacular returns, and you have some Cilic misses on the +1, and you have a double fault thrown in there. And that's kind of your cocktail. So that's survival. Did Cilic do that? Did Cilic survive when Djokovic made first serves? Almost never. He almost never did. Djokovic hit more unreturned first serves than Cilic, first of all. 62% first serves unreturned for Novak. 54% for Cilic. And that just goes to returning skill because, again, Cilic was hitting his first serve bigger. And Cilic was making more first serves as well. 71%. That's good enough. Like that, you would say before the match, that's what Marin needs to do to beat Novak. He needs to make 71%. And he did it, but it didn't matter. I kind of lost my train of thought here. Oh, yeah. All right. So here's kind of the stat of truth, right? Here's what matters. Djokovic won 89% of his first serve points. Cilic won 71% of his. So, the 0 through 4 advantage off of first serve, it wasn't there. There's no short point edge for Cilic, even though he has the bigger serve and the louder weapons. I say louder because bigger isn't always better. If you miss, you lose the point. So Djokovic is not really. Now, look, there's less pressure on Novak. It doesn't need to be as good because Djokovic isn't afraid of neutrality as much as Cilic is. Cilic, when he gets a short ball, he really does not want the point to get back to neutral. And Djokovic, there's a little bit less pressure. He wants to certainly take control and win the point flat out with his aggression, with his offense. But if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world, where Cilic kind of feels like it might be more the end of the world. So that plays into why Cilic might make more unforced errors. But at the end of the day, if you look at the reliability on the forehands, it's not even close. And by the way, Novak's forehand, best ground stroke on the court by far in this match, not even close. Djokovic's serving was extremely clutch also. He was down 15-30 in the first game of the match, served 3 unreturnables to hold. Cilic was pressuring Djokovic's serve at 5-3 in the first set. Novak was trying to serve out the first set, and it was 30-all, and Djokovic hit 3 unreturnables on the next 4 points. This was from 30-all, serving out the first set at 5-3. Then in the second set, 3-2, he's up a break. He actually doesn't make a lot of first serves in this game at all, and he has to face his only break point of the match, and he hits an ace. So, unbelievably clutch serving. Novak was slicing a ton. It worked really well early on. Some crucial errors from Cilic early on off of Djokovic's slice. Then I thought Marin got used to it, and it wasn't really a factor. Starting around the end of the first set, Marin got used to it, and he started actually slicing his own backhand quite nicely, and not really trying to run around and hit forehand as much. Just accepting the backhand and going cross court. It was working a little bit better for him. So I didn't think that was a huge factor after the beginning of the match. But Djokovic's game plan was definitely to try to slice and make Cilic go down and get the ball and try to kind of keep him at bay that way and change up the rhythm. I think that was definitely part of the plan. The one thing I didn't understand on the Cilic side of things is why he wasn't attacking Djokovic's second serves with more venom. That I didn't understand. I've seen Cilic implement that against other players in the past, and I think Cilic is very good at attacking his returns, and it seemed a little bit passive against Djokovic's second serve in this match. And Novak's second serve was probably the worst part of this performance on his part. His average speed was 82 miles per hour, which is pretty poor. And he still double faulted 4 times. Like, he just wasn't feeling that shot at all. And I don't think he was feeling that shot much at all throughout the week. So it was weird for me that Cilic didn't look to take advantage of that. But he really didn't. He hit some, fairly strong returns, but I mean, if I'm Cilic, I'm trying to really impose my will off of that return, and he didn't. So that's all. Another title for Novak. Well played. Very impressive. And let's go to Seoul. Shapovalov, Nishioka. Not going to go in as much depth for this one. Nishioka wins it. 2 sets. 2 tight sets. This match was great. Quality was awesome. Really a lot of entertaining points. Nishioka's defensive skills are pretty crazy, everyone. Pretty insane. He stole a lot of points. He's really fast. He's really quick, too. I mean, the first step is incredible. He's very dynamic in his court position. He moves, north and south very well, and that's one of the most impressive things I think about him is he actually is willing to get up on the baseline. Not only willing, he likes to do this. He's willing to get up on the baseline, take time away in order to create some offense because, he doesn't have ground stroke power. So he has to take time away. But he feels the rally very well. He understands when he's about to be attacked, he drops back and uses the court his court positioning to his advantage. He's able to defend very well from a deep position as well. So I was just amazed by Nishioka's defense against Shapovalov's power. He never looked rushed. It seemed at times that Shapovalov, and this is just never true for Denis, it seemed like sometimes it was hard for Denis to get the ball past him. And, Shapovalov can get the ball past anybody on any surface. That's kind of the point of Denis Shapovalov. So to see Nishioka absorb that pace and, move and cover the court so well against Shapovalov's aggression was actually breathtaking. And he defends with a lot of craft as well. I think one big pattern here was Shapo's net approaches were pretty constant here. And whenever, and look, Shapo, it's not that Nishioka is a defensive player, but if Shapovalov, against Shapovalov he is, because, Denis is always looking to make so much happen that, I think a player like Nishioka who needs to work the point more and it takes a little bit more time for him, it's generally not going to be Nishioka really initiating the sequences that are ending points, okay? It's generally going to be Shapo. And I just felt like Denis was kind of looking to come in so often, and it felt like it was playing into Nishioka's hands. And I hesitate. It's not really a criticism of Shapo because I like him coming forward. I think in general it's a good thing, but sometimes it was just Nishioka is so good with a target. His angles are so good. He's so crafty, and it just didn't look like, he was just coming up with great passing shot after great passing shot. At a certain point, you were wondering if Shapo should have been a little bit more selective with his net approaches. The game that Nishioka broke back in the second set, Shapo was basically at net every point. Basically every point. Some of them were uncalled for. Some of them were silly. He was forcing it. If you force it against a great counterpuncher, that's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly what they want you to do. So I just think, in a way, it's kind of a bad matchup for Shapovalov because this isn't the way that he's going to play. But is it better to kind of force Nishioka to create a little bit by himself? It is. It's probably better to mix heights, mix spins, to try to kind of be a little bit more patient in looking for ways to finish the point, because Nishioka is really precise, amazing timing, and his passing shots are going to be on point. They really are. In general, though, Shapo was awesome this week, and in general, he was consistent. And I just want to take a moment to say, the way it was looking for Shapo out there on the court is it felt like he could really hit out on the ball and take his big cuts without having to sacrifice that much control. The ball just wasn't really flying on him. I didn't see as many Shapovalov errors that were distance related, not as balls going long or balls going into net. So something, and I don't know what it was right now. There are a couple theories that we should kind of look out for. First of all, the racket. Shapovalov is using some new Yonex frame that is blacked out right now. I don't think, it's unreleased. They haven't come out with it. Is that it? Did he figure out a frame that's going to dampen and mute the power enough where even a guy like Shapovalov is going to be able to swing freely without, and still be able to control the ball? I mean, it's something to watch out for. We don't know yet because we've only seen it here. I don't know what kind of balls they were using, right? Or if the air was really heavy, right? Like we've seen Shapo, he had a great run in Miami a little while back. Well, the air is heavy in Miami. That humidity, it allows him it allows, the ball doesn't really fly as much in that heavy air, right? So it allows him to hit out more. Why did he play so well at Wimbledon? Well, what is it? Schlesinger? I don't know. I don't even see them in the U.S. That ball is very, it has almost a deadening quality about it. So you can really take big cuts at that Schlesinger ball without it flying on you. It's just how the ball is. So a lot of the times with Shapo, it's very related to the conditions. Maybe this technology change is going to be huge for him. Time will tell. Let's see how he does at the next couple tournaments, right? But in general, he was very consistent. Now, in the big moments, there were some inconsistencies. He missed that forehand volley on set point in the first set. And look, this isn't another example of Nishioka's speed stealing a point. He stole so many points. Shapo's first volley, most players wouldn't have gotten there and it would have been a winner. But Nishioka, he got there. He made Shapovalov hit an extra volley, and it was an easy forehand volley that he missed. You go to the second set tiebreak. It's 4-5. Shapovalov serving, and he has a forehand approach shot, and he sails it long from inside the baseline. And that's where, by the way, it's going to be even harder to control the ball if you're a guy like Shapovalov who tries to crush everything, because you have less court to work with. But from behind the baseline, it really felt like Shapo was awesome because he could take huge cuts and the ball was still going in. Anyway, that was a bad error at 4-5 in the second set on the forehand. And then he did miss another trade on match point, taking a forehand cross court, just missing. He was under a little bit of duress, but not too much. It was an unforced error. So it was, in a match that close, couple of points. Shapo certainly made some mistakes, but in general, he was very consistent, and Nishioka was incredible, and it was a really high-quality match. Work to be done on the return, maybe, Nishioka got some free points. Whenever Nishioka gets free points, you're kind of raising an eyebrow, like, all right, you probably shouldn't give Nishioka free points given the serve that he possesses. Nishioka was machine-like, though. Does remind me a lot of a hard court Schwartzman, a hard court oriented Schwartzman, very, I think, much more comfortable moving on the hard court. And that's, the surface he feels most confident on. But it is a situation of a player who covers the court in terms of his quickness as well as anyone. Very, very consistent. Fantastic off of both wings, especially, the backhand is probably better than the forehand. The forehand is heavy topspin, finds good lefty angles, gets it to the backhand side of the court, but doesn't deliver a lot of pace off of that side. But in general, it's tough, because it's tough to find a way through him. Really tough to find a way through him. And he's also got great fitness. So all those things considered, reminds me a lot of Diego Schwartzman, just more comfortable on a hard court. All right, let's get to some questions. From Road to Dawn. Hey, Gill, I wanted to ask you a question about Jannik Sinner. Would you say this year has been a net positive or net negative for Jannik? He's had a lot of injuries early in the season that hurt his ranking, but at the Grand Slams, he's been really good when it matters. What are your thoughts? Yeah, he's made 3 quarterfinals at the Slams. Quarters at the Australian Open, lost to Tsitsipas. Quarters at the at Wimbledon, lost to Alcaraz. Quarters at the U.S. Open. Not lost to Alcaraz. Quarters at Wimbledon, beat. What am I doing? Lost to Djokovic. And quarters at the U.S. Open, lost to Alcaraz. Match point. Great win percentage for Sinner. And in Sofia, where he was undefeated, won the title here, the last 2 years. Rolled his ankle, sprained his ankle, and it's kind of a continuation of really the reason to me that Sinner is not top 8 in the race right now. He's 12th. Is twofold. I mean, one, he didn't get the Wimbledon points, which could have been useful. Two, it's just the injuries and the health from kind of just popping up and disrupting too many tournaments for him. So, but all in all, it's a net positive with the improvement of the serve, with the polishing of the mental game, which I think has become like elite. Although, you know, there's an argument to be made that he needs to kind of finish off opponents a little bit better when he has a lead as the favorite. But no, I just think he's playing a lot of close matches. But I don't really think it's like a mental thing. Anyway, it's been great. Like, he's a much better player than last year. I don't really care what some of the stats might say about that. He's just got to build up his body. But, you know, the volleys are better. The return of serve is better. The serve is way better. And I think he's definitely taken a step up. He's taken a leap. By the way, that question was, the rest of the questions were in this week's community post, but that question was from the mailbag a couple weeks ago after the U.S. Open and for the Federer retirement. And there were so many good questions in that mailbag that I didn't get to. So if you did ask a question that you remember in that mailbag, try it again. And same goes for this time. Try asking it again because I can't get to everyone, even if you ask a good question. All right, I'm excited for this one. It was the top liked comment from Apex of the World, and it's a good one. Hi, Gill. Thank you for the amazing content. As always, I appreciate it. How does the Lost Gens talent, Berdych, Tsonga, Ferrer, I would add Dimitrov, I would add Soderling, compare to the next gen, disregarding Alcaraz? This is only a hypothetical, but I'm curious to know if you think the Lost Gen would have been as successful or more successful if they had gotten the benefit of playing in an era where Rafa and Novak are out of their primes and Roger, Murray, and Stan aren't the contenders they were. The second question is, what is your most treasured tennis memorabilia? All right, well, let's get to the first one. I got to think about the second one. I don't even know. I've never been a member. Okay, let's answer that one first. I've never been a big memorabilia guy in any sport. It's never really gotten me going. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I'm right, but like, you know, autographs and stuff, it's just never got me going. My most prized sports memorabilia is like right here. Henrik Lundqvist signed that puck, that Rangers puck, but like that's a nostalgia thing from like when I was, you know, very young. I got that puck and it was just kind of like my Rangers good luck charm. But tennis memorabilia, I mean, so these mugs up here, and I have more that I actually drink coffee out of instead of leaving it up there. I have kind of a tradition where when I go to a tennis tournament, I get a mug. And that's kind of just like, it symbolizes, okay, I was there. That's kind of my token of remembrance of when I go to an event is these coffee mugs. So I would say it's that. And this one is from Queens, and I don't know how well you can see it, but it's just a really cool mug. It has like a bunch of old tennis rackets on it, and it says like the year that they were supposedly from, and it's just like super nice. So maybe it's that. I don't know. All right, Lost Gen versus Next Gen. Juicy question. I firmly believe that the Next Gen is better than the Lost Gen. Head to head, I think they're better. And, you know, one of the big ways that I think about tennis players is how, you know, can they play at an elite level in all aspects of the game? Offense, defense, neutral. And in order to succeed at, you know, in all of those aspects of the game, from all of those positions, you generally need to have a great combination of speed, athleticism. So I'm grouping those: speed, athleticism, and weaponry, firepower. Right? Weaponry, firepower, speed, athleticism. You need that combination to succeed offensively and defensively. And I look at the lost gen, and I see a lot of guys who were not the complete package. All right. Burdick was slow. All right. The offense was there, played great from neutral, played great offensively, wasn't a good defensive player. You know, he just wasn't elite, right? Comparatively. Okay. He was not there. He was not quick. Sanga, same thing. Love him offensively. Love his weapons, his firepower. Great hands, huge forehand, nice serve. Not quick. Didn't defend well. Ferrer, very quick, great athlete, great movement, great defense, great from neutral. Offense, power, firepower. You get an X. Not elite. Not elite. Sorry. Didn't make it happen. Dimitrov, fast, athletic. Weapons aren't there. Power isn't there. Soderling, powerful. Firepower, offense, huge ground strokes. Not quick. Didn't defend well. Right? Even Del Potro, who moved well, defended decent. You know, he's kind of borderline. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded than actually everybody in terms of, you know, can you be elite? Offense, defense, neutral, all three. I think Del Potro was close, but still, even defensively, he leaves a little bit to be desired, doesn't he? So, the lost gen, you know, these guys were not the complete package. Next gen. I feel like they are. Tsitsipas, his combination of movement, speed, athleticism, and power, weaponry, it's all there. You know, offense, defense, neutral, it's all there. Medvedev and Zverev, all right, you have really good movers, really good defensively, good from neutral. Some might say, well, Gill, they don't have the offense, but you can't say that with their first serves. Their first serves are enormous offensive weapons, so you can't take that away from them. That is where it comes from. So they have plenty offensively. And I do see them as the full package. Sinner, he's going to be the same way. We're disregarding Alcaraz right now. But who else? Am I missing someone? See, like Khachanov is more of. I don't want to compare him to those guys. Never mind. All right, I think I answered the question, right? That's how I think about it. I see these next-gen guys as the total package more often than not. Look at Ruud. Look at Casper Ruud. Quick, fast, enormous serve, enormous forehand. Offense, defense, neutral. It's all there. Lost-gen guys didn't have that. All right, next one from Natalia. Hi, Gill. Thanks for a great channel. I appreciate you. What are your predictions for Rafa's end of season? I was surprised to see his announcement of his South American tour with Casper. Do you expect him to play Paris and especially Turin? Also, what will the final 8 for Turin be in your opinion? I'm not going to answer that last one. I'm not ready to. I would need to stare at that and spend some time with that. But look, I don't know the details around the exhibition with Ruud. I suppose that could be a bit of a hand tip that Rafa actually wants to continue with his 2022 season. I really didn't think he would. I mean, first of all, we've seen him shut it down plenty of times when he's felt like his body really needs some rest. Obviously, he did not play this time of year a season ago. Obviously, we saw that it didn't come back to hurt him in Australia, crucially, where he won a title to start the year in Melbourne, right? Not Adelaide, Melbourne, and then he won the Australian Open. So I would think, especially with the ab injury, the fact that he still wasn't serving normal at the U.S. Open and at Laver Cup, and that's an injury that, like, we've seen with the player. I'm going to go to the women's side for an example here. We've seen, like, a player with, like, Karolina Muchova. These ab injuries can be nightmares if they don't heal properly. With that, I mean, and his history at these next couple of events, I literally think he doesn't enjoy playing them as much as a lot of other events throughout the year. And the baby, that was burying the lead by me. I should have led with that, by the way. I really don't think he's going to play, but hey, I don't know. It's weird to predict players' schedules. I don't normally like to do it, but got to be completely honest. I really didn't think he. I guess I shouldn't say past tense. I don't think he's going to play for the rest of the season. Hi, Gill. These are a couple of questions about Nishioka. Hi, Gil. Thanks for the coverage. I've been watching Nishioka for a bit, and I honestly find it surprising that so many of his opponents keep attacking his backhand, regardless of how often it hurts them. I guess it's counterintuitive to attack his forehand, but surely someone has figured out that going to his backhand will only end in pain. My thoughts and sympathies go to Dan Evans. Hopefully he'll figure out Yoshi's game eventually. All right, yeah. Yoshi's 4-0 in the head-to-head against Dan Evans. Or is it 5-0? It's one or the other. When you go to Nishioka's forehand, so first of all, the backhand, it's a nightmare. So it's a flatter shot, and as a result, it's a speedier shot. So, and it's a total shock absorber. It's the kind of shot where, like, the harder you hit the ball at Nishioka's backhand, the harder it comes back. Matt Willis called those shots like Pikachu, Pikachu shots where, like, it's like absorbing the power and deflecting it right back. So yeah, it has a Pikachu quality to it, the backhand. But the only thing is the forehand, like if you're Dan Evans and you go to Nishioka's forehand, he's going to hook it cross court and you're going to go hit backhands now. So if you're like a Dan Evans, do you really want to hit backhands? Absolutely not. If you're most righties, you don't want to hit backhands. So, it's hard to tell a righty to direct traffic at a left-hander's forehand. It's hard. Now, if your backhand is awesome, then I do think that would be the way to play Nishioka. You want to get into that pattern because the forehand can get a little bit loopy and predictable cross court, and you can pick it off and create offense with your backhand if you have a really good one in that cross court pattern. I think if Novak plays Nishioka, I don't think he'll mind. I'll just say that. This next one is from Adi Tennis. Thanks for the kind words. Was wondering how you're feeling about Yoshi's overall progression and ranking amongst the younger crew of tennis players. What does he need to do to become elite? I don't think he can become elite with that serve. Gonna have to be better in that area. But look, it bodes well that, like, this wasn't just one run. He had the run in Washington. He made the final. He lost to Kyrgios. Played a bunch of 3-setters that week and was, kind of dead by the time the final came around. By the way, Rublev's another guy who really didn't enjoy, like, Nishioka's pace absorption is just so good. So Rublev is just, firing ground strokes with the linear pace at Nishioka, and Yoshi's like, thank you. Please give me more. I love this. That was the semifinal opponent in Washington. He beat Ruud this week. That was his best win of the week. Other than that, it was a nice draw, especially considering Evans is such a positive head-to-head against him. So, the results do not suggest a flash in the pan. Early in the year, Nishioka was playing very, very poorly because his forehand was brutal. I watched him a little bit on the clay, and the forehand was just an absolute disaster. So he kind of figured that out, and he's been really, really good. It's just I tend to think that if Nishioka completely maximizes his talent, I see him as a top 20 player and not a top 10 player. But that would be cool if he proved me wrong. That would be cool. All right, last ones here. They are both about Casper Ruud. First one's from YZ. Do you think Ruud and Thiem are somewhat similar? Both are good on clay first and then hard, not good on grass. Both play the power game. Will Ruud be better or worse than Thiem? I think 23-year-old Ruud is better than 23-year-old Thiem, but Thiem's peak was really high. Ruud's way ahead of Thiem on the development curve. It's not very close. Thiem at 23, his serve was just a kick serve. His shot selection was really bad. His court positioning was very clay-centric. And his backhand on quick surfaces was extremely exploitable in terms of his ability to defend on it. And the return of serve, again, on quick surfaces was a problem. So Thiem had all of these holes all over his game. And Ruud is somewhat buttoned up. He's working on the weaknesses. There are a couple, but they are very small. I think Ruud can also start to defend his backhand better. Ruud can probably work on the volleying, the return of serve, and the backhand in general, but the backhand's getting better. It's got to keep getting better. He's got to be able to flatten that shot out. But Ruud is just a more complete player right now than Thiem was when he was 23. But the end of your comment is true. You say, but Thiem's peak was really high. And yeah, that's a good point. The success that Thiem had against, having wins against Nadal and Djokovic and Federer, when they were, and they were playing at the time a very, very high level, all of them. It's not like Ruud is close to that right now. He's actually kind of not. I don't think he's that close to 2020 Thiem. So there's work to be done. There's work to be done for Casper Ruud, but he's very much on pace to surpass Thiem. From Odal, I'm wondering about why Ruud has lost to Nishioka so surprisingly in Korea. It seems every now and then he gets a big upset, or is it true that he has yet to prove himself as a great hardcourt player? I think what he really lacks is that big wins against top players, and why is he playing so many 250s? He never skips one. I'm going to take a pass on the last one of that. I don't have a problem with him playing this one, although, maybe something could be said for resting after the U.S. Open. The only time I criticized Ruud's schedule this year is when he was playing clay during, Rotterdam. And I just feel like that's counterproductive for his development and that's the big thing. I think it's counterproductive for his development and his preparation for the Sunshine Double, which he should want to do well at, and he's playing on clay instead of Rotterdam. That I didn't get. Look, you're right about the big wins against top players. That's why I say, Ruud's ranking is look, he's he's had great runs at Roland Garros at the U.S. Open. He's taken advantage of his draws there. He's picked up some big wins. But it's a little bit inflated. Like, I don't think he's the second best player in the world right now. He's 3-7 this year against top 10 players, is what I believe the number is. In terms of the Nishioka loss, like, there's just one pattern, and I look, that time zone is brutal for me. I didn't watch that match, but I do just want to kind of bring, a pattern to everyone's attention when it comes to Casper Ruud. So he's on a 3-match losing streak against lefties outside the top 100, or actually he was until he beat Mute at the U.S. Open. But until he beat Mute at the U.S. Open, he lost to Ben Shelton. That was in Cincinnati. Then at Wimbledon, he lost to Hugo Humbert, who, look, should he really be outside the top 100? We can debate that. Not really. Then again, Humbert is such a mess sometimes. I called one of his matches last week, and I'm not encouraged by what I've seen from him as of late. So Humbert, that's at Wimbledon, and then Ryan Peniston at Queens. Now you throw in Nishioka. That's a 4th loss against a lefty outside the top 50. Now let me do this in real time. Let's see what his record is against opponents outside the top 50 in 2022. All right, he's taken 6 losses. One of them is to Kyrgios at Indian Wells. All right, Kyrgios in 2022, top 10 player. So while that says he's outside the top 50, in fact, Kyrgios was 132 in the world when they played at Indian Wells. That's BS. That lies. The statistics lie there. So, then he also lost. He took a loss to Dusan Lajovic as well. So if we adjust to reality, Ruud has 5 losses against players ranked outside the top 50. 4 of those losses are to lefties. What does that tell you? Well, again, backhand return, not where it needs to be. Backhand in general, not where it needs to be. So he's losing against these lefty patterns. That's all. Nishioka in particular, a lot of heavy angle, lots of height, spinny balls. Like, he just mixes it up, and he drags you off the court. He makes you hit backhands if you're a righty from uncomfortable positions, whether that be, uncomfortable because there's so much topspin and loop on the ball, or uncomfortable because there's so much width and you're having to move outside the sideline to hit a backhand. So that's what Nishioka does, and I imagine Ruud didn't handle that too well. I imagine. Again, didn't watch the match, but that's the pattern that everyone should be aware of. All right, everybody, that will do it for this week's edition of Monday Match Analysis. I will have a mailbag later in the week. Maybe I'll talk to you before then, maybe not. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.